not in your vocabulary? Are you willing to outwork everyone in your next contest but need the right guidance? Drop those bad contest prep strategies and let New York Muscle Radio guide you on your journey to the stage. Whether it's your first show or you're going for that pro card, get a leg up on the competition with individual customized contest prep strategies. Visit NewYorkMuscleRadio.com and click on that coaching tab to get started.
New York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
What's up, guys? New York Muscle Radio, episode number 116. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, alongside the birthday boy, Big Pete Kacharian. And welcome to the New York Muscle Radio podcast. If you're a new listener, welcome to the only podcast on iTunes that gives you quality information without that fluff. Big guy, what's up? You ready for today's topic, nutrition for powerlifting?
Nutrition for powerlifting. This is definitely something that you're going to be the shining star on, because I'm pretty much just going to be here for the comic relief, I guess, for this episode.
What are you talking about, man? You know your stuff when it comes to nutrition.
No, yeah, absolutely. As far as nutrition for powerlifting, I think that's a topic that me and you know a lot about, because nutrition for powerlifting and nutrition for bodybuilding and physique goals are not really all that different, and I think it's something that powerlifters do neglect a lot of. Powerlifters love to just eat food and lift heavy weights, which is great.
Cool.
We all love to do that. Definitely one of my favorite things to do myself, but if you're trying to take it to the next level, then nutrition is something you really have to pay attention to, and I think a lot of powerlifters do neglect that. I think bodybuilders are just hardcore in the nutrition, maybe even overkill in nutrition. Powerlifters definitely neglect it a little bit.
Yeah, it's more the other way. More the other way for them, Well, anyway, we'll get into that topic today. I'm excited for that. But birthday boy, what did you do for your birthday celebration yesterday?
Pretty much a low-key, probably the most low-key birthday party I've had in a long time. Just dinner. That's it. Nice evening dinner and drinks. And I had a nice dessert after dinner. And
what did you have for dessert?
What do you think I had for dessert?
Probably ice cream.
I had a big bowl of frozen yogurt, and then I went on to one of my favorite snacks, actually. Everyone's on the pop chips kick, but I did not have pop chips. I had pop corners. You know pop corners?
Yeah, they're so much better.
Pop corners are great, man. And I was
the kettle flavor.
Kettle is good, and what did I have? The cheddar one. Cheddar is great.
Yeah. Wait, isn't that white cheddar?
White cheddar, yes, the white cheddar. That's my favorite one. They have a jalapeno one also, which is pretty good, but the white cheddar is probably my favorite. But I was planning on, I had a ton of carbs left for the day, and I was planning on having an untracked, just to finish off the day with untracked popcorners. But it ended up becoming tracked because I ate the whole bag. So
yeah, it's only, I think in a whole bag is like 100-something grams of carbs, and I think like 12 fat or something like that. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, well, the fat's a little higher. I think it's like 20 or 25, but 100 carbs for the bag. It's not terrible. It's a whole bag of chips, Yeah,
they're so good though.
I know. You can't stop eating those. There's some types of chips where like Doritos. I love Doritos. I don't really eat them regularly, but Doritos, you have like a serving or two, and then you just feel kind of like full and gross after it.
Yeah, especially the Cool Ranch flavor. Then your mouth feels gross.
Yeah, I love Cool Ranch, but I guess it's good in a way because it prevents you from eating the whole bag, But the
nacho
macros
cheese, I think
are higher.
You can eat more of.
Yeah, nacho cheese are great, and I heard they brought back like one of the original flavors with the green bag.
Oh my God! Remember those?
Yes,
as a kid?
I forget
what the hell was the flavor?
I can't remember what it was. I think it was like a spicy one, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh my God! I didn't even know that. You know what? To be honest, I didn't even know they got rid of that flavor.
Yeah, that hasn't been around. I mean, they brought flavors back. It might be just a limited time thing again. They always do that, but I see the green ones are around again.
You know how they have that whole thing with all the different companies of chips, and like now they're having like all the different flavors, like the weird flavors.
Yeah.
I saw one the other day in the store. It was waffles and fried chicken flavor, like Lay's. I'm like, what the hell?
I might have seen that. I might have seen that actually.
I can't see how the chip flavor of that is good.
Was it you I was talking about the ketchup ones?
Oh, I was just going to bring that up. Yeah. Ketchup chips. Those things are great.
Yeah. I remember seeing those the first time when I was a kid, and I'm like, why the hell would I want ketchup flavored chips? But they were good.
They were so good. And what's the other flavor that we talked? Oh, salt and vinegar.
Salt and vinegar. That might be, honestly, as far as like my favorite just potato chip flavor, Sour cream and onion is always a staple, but like salt and vinegar if you're looking for something a little bit different.
Yeah, that's kind of always been my thing. I'm not into sweets like cake and cookies and shit. Like
Yeah,
I
me
can always
neither,
avoid
yeah.
that. It's the chips as a kid growing up. I feel like that's all I ate was chips.
Chips and just chips. Honestly,
Yeah.
just bad snacks. It was like you said, never like ice cream and cake. Like I never like if someone put that on the table, like I really want that. But when the chips
Yeah.
are out, I'm eating some chips.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how we get into this chip discussion, but
It's fitting because I'm sure a lot of powerlifters listening to this like their chips too.
yeah. Well, according
their
to
junk
bodybuilders,
food.
chips are anabolic.
No, what's
Unless
funny?
they're baked.
I'm not even gonna get into that, but do you remember how much debate? Actually, I'm gonna get into it. Do you remember how much debate there would be over if you could eat baked Lay's or not?
No, I mean I don't remember that. I never really paid attention to that debate.
I mean, if you look at the ingredients in something like baked Lay's versus a white potato, there's not much of a difference. And they're, like the macro wise, I mean, you're eating the bulk of it's obviously just a white potato. There's some other stuff in there that makes it not natural or not paleo
natty.
friendly, or I don't know what kind of title somebody wants to put on it or restriction somebody wants to put on it. But at the end of the day, it's a potato. It comes from a potato. It's a carb source. When you eat potatoes, you get carbs. When you eat baked Lay's, you get carbs. Maybe you get a little bit of fat more than a potato, but it's not fried, so it's not loaded with oil. So,
For the price, one of those damn bags because they're baked are so expensive. They're like $3.50 a bag.
I know it's expensive, man. It's crazy. I really don't buy chips that much anymore. I do get like I said, the popcorners I eat because every once in a while you'll get a sale. It's like 2 for $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
If you get them on sale for 2 for $5, I'll buy like 5 or 6 bags.
Are you a pretzel guy?
I like pretzels. I really don't eat them too much regularly anymore, but when I was a kid, I was big on pretzels. I do like pretzels. I eat pretzel bagels all the time because I love pretzel.
I love those. You turned me on to those.
Yeah, I love pretzel flavored anything, but just eating pretzels for the sake of eating pretzels, not so much anymore.
Pretzels or chips?
Definitely chips, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely chips.
I won't go out of my way for pretzels.
No, I like pretzels, but definitely if I go for one or the other, it's chips. I always... Baked Lay's, popcorners. That's pretty much it. My two go-to. Like I said, I like Doritos and stuff like that, but I won't eat them regularly.
So let's shift back into training because this is the best muscle building podcast on iTunes here. So I want to keep this flowing. But so I wanted to talk about my deadlift training for a little bit. I really feel like I'm making huge strides in my deadlift. So I'm super excited for my next meet, which is going to be in November. I'm really hoping to break that 600 mark, and I'm really hoping that it does it. But, man, incorporating the singles into your training, it just makes deadlift training not easier because that's a wrong word, but what's the word I'm looking for here? Easier. I guess easier because now I've noticed that I've been able to add more weight to the bar quicker, and hence that's going to get more volume over time, which will help me build more muscle, which will help me deadlift more.
I think
quick is the right word.
I think more efficient would be
the
best way because, like you said, it's a lot more specific to what you're trying to do on meet day, and you're practicing that skill a lot more because, like we said on the last podcast, if you're doing 5 sets of 5 on deadlift and you're not resetting the reps every time, you're basically doing 5 real singles. You're only doing where each set there's only 1 rep where the first one is the first rep. When you do 25 singles, basically you're doing 25 that. So you're doing 5 times the amount more specific. So it's definitely going to have a lot more carryover.
Well, this week I'm deloading, and then I'm doing a test at the end of the week just to kind of see where my strength is at and see if I need to adjust anything, whatever, based on what was going on. So for my test, obviously I have to do more than 1 rep. So I don't even know what the goal is off my head. I think it's like 5 or 6 reps with a certain weight. I don't even know what the weight is yet. It's weird how I don't know this off my head. I have it written down, but I don't pay attention to it because then I dwell on it.
Yeah,
you ever see that number on the paper and you're like, oh, fuck.
I think it's better not to even know.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think I have to do like 5 reps with a certain weight. So I've been doing more resets just to build up to it, like only sets of 5. So so let's say the other day I was supposed to do 18 reps with a certain weight. So I did just like a set of 5, but like 4 seconds rest.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel so much doing it this way, just in general, doing the singles. I feel so much more recovered. I feel so much more conditioned for deadlifts. When I do sets of deadlifts, you just feel dead in between. Like I feel good. Like it's so weird. Have you been incorporating it, right?
Yeah. So
Do you follow what I'm saying then?
Yes. I was actually gonna say I could definitely report the same thing. I'm doing them. I do gauge it a little bit by how I feel that day, but I am doing singles across the board with my deadlift training. So like on a day where I might have, let's say 25 reps, depending if it's a heavy, moderate, or light day, whatever it is, if I have to pull 25 singles, if it's a weight that I would do, let's say 5 sets of 5 with or something like that, I might break it up into five sets of 5 singles, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So instead of doing a set of 5 reps, resting, then doing another set of 5 reps, I'll devote a chunk of time to doing 5 reps but pulling singles. Then I'll I'll sit down, I'll rest or whatever I'll do. Then I'll get back and I'll pull another 5 singles. Whatever I got to do.
I laughed.
He finds that so funny that I sit down in between sets. Like that's odd.
Yeah, because you're like, you lift and then right away you sit down. It's hilarious. It's like you're an out of shape guy. Like you'll do a set, like there'll be curls. You'll curl, and then you'll just put it down and then you'll go and sit down.
Hey man,
and you'll be huffing up.
The purpose of resting in between sets is to recover for the next set. So the second you're done performing a lift, now it's time to start the recovery process.
I'll never forget the first time you started training with me. The first time when I was still doing the powerlifting training, and I was dieting down for my show. So we worked out. We did a whole squat deadlift workout. It was like 2.5 hours. You were like passed out on the bench, dying. And I go, all right, Pete, time to do high intensity cardio. Your eyes almost fell out of your head.
Yeah, because we were 2 hours into the workout. Like you said, we bench, squat, and deadlift. 2.5 hours in. And then it was time to start doing cardio. HIIT cardio, nonetheless. I don't even like doing HIIT cardio when I'm fresh. Nobody does.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was the fun. I'll never forget your reaction that day. That was probably the funniest thing ever.
I didn't do that HIIT cardio.
No, you didn't do it. You just watched me in amazement.
I was not dieting, man. There was no reason for me to do HIIT cardio.
Exactly. All right, guys, remember, coaching, couple slots left, need to pick it up. NewYorkMuscleRadio.com, click on that coaching tab because we're closing up shop after these couple of spots are filled. So make sure to check that out. And if you're thinking about doing coaching, now's the time to take advantage. T-shirts and tank tops are available, NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. They're there. Get them while they're hot. Let's move on to the shout-outs portion, buddy. So I got some from Instagram. I got some cool ones today. I have at Chensthetics Fitness. He's also a powerlifter in the Long Island area, so shout out to him. Shout out to Ming Fitness. I like that name. Shout out to Butch the Kid. This one's cool. Shout out to Bevel Aqua 85. No relation to me at all. So a fellow Bevel Aqua.
Bevel Aqua.
Yeah. I don't even know his name. I do. I think it's Tony or something like that. But shout out to him. Shout out to at Tempe22. And I got to shout out someone actually emailed us, and she said, from Emma Holbrook, she said, I've been listening to your podcast on the way to and from the gym and so thankful for your advice. Strong is the new skinny for women, and your podcast promotes this idea. You're both great role models for me, and as a previous runner, I am inspired to change my ways and keep increasing my strength. That's cool, man. Strong is the new skinny, and I gotta be honest with that. I like that saying too.
And women are definitely jumping on that now lately. Like, I'm really happy to see that because even I'd say a year or two ago, it was very hard to get a lot of females to lift weights and especially lift heavy weights. And now I think because it's more the norm, you will see that them being a lot more comfortable to start lifting heavy weights. Because you always get the females in the gym that do want to lose weight and they do want to get leaner, but they're so hesitant to get under the bar and start lifting heavy weights. But since they see everybody doing it now and they realize they're not going to get muscular and they're not going to get too big, you're going with it now, which is definitely a good trend.
Yeah, I like to say when women do too much cardio, they get cardio body. And that's like when everything sags and it looks nasty and they're skinny, but they just don't look like anything. It's just like flabby. But when a woman lifts, her body just changes. It's insane. It's insane. Women, I always tell women this. If you want to look really good, you got to lift like a man.
It's true. No. I know it sounds weird, but that's the best formula. Every female that I know that looks great does lift like a man.
It's so funny because every time I try to explain that to them, they're like, oh, but I don't want to bulk up. I'm like, no. Your goal should be to try to bulk up.
Yeah, there's so many men. I say this too. There's so many men out there that try to bulk up and they still can't. What makes you think that as a woman you're going to be able to do it? You don't even have the hormones to do it. And there's men who do have the hormones to do it, and they still can't do it.
Yeah, I've been trying to bulk up for years.
Me too, man. I know the feeling.
I've been trying to bulk up for years. I'm just gonna have to go on hormone replacement therapy like
Yeah.
everybody else and just
Yeah, you'll be
blow
good.
up overnight.
You should go to the doctor. You might have your testosterone level might not be optimal. It might be a little bit low. You just got to get it up a little bit to get those levels normal.
Exactly. You know, if the low is 300, I might be at 301.
Yeah.
God. All right, guys, let's move on to the listener question of the day. So again, if you guys have a question you'd like us to answer it, submit it on our website, NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. Actually, before we do the listener question, I just got a comment. It's kind of early for you, big guy. It's 10:40 in the morning right now. We've been recording for a little about 20 minutes or so, and you're up. You're up and about today.
Yeah,
you're
I got
chipper
up
in the morning, huh?
I got up at about
This new coaching lifestyle's got you chipper.
Well, to be honest with you, that's actually why I got up early this morning, because we had a bunch of clients check in yesterday, and like we mentioned, it was my birthday, so I did want to get back to some emails. I didn't want anybody to wait too long, so I said, let me get up early tomorrow and get those done, because it's a Sunday today, so I like to sleep on Sundays, but when there's work to be done, you gotta plan accordingly.
Yeah. So good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. So today's question. First of all, thank you guys for being the best provider of bro science and questionable entertainment. Only joking. Don't stop reading just yet. So obviously I know this guy has to be from the UK somewhere. Seriously though, I've discovered you a week ago and I've listened to like a half of the episode since. I was glad to discover that some of the stuff you talk about I was already using intuitively or thanks to my own research, but I've learned a ton of good and new stuff from you guys. My question, what advice would you offer to a regular guy who is not a bodybuilder and successfully managed to diet for several months, losing a pound or two each week, but is still relatively high on the body fat percentage scale? See, it says 17%. Would you recommend to diet down to sort of 10 to 12% to improve insulin sensitivity and then reverse diet, build up the metabolism and train muscles, or stop dieting and build up muscles ASAP? Or maybe to simplify, what would be the optimal diet duration for a non-muscular obese person to get them lean and in healthy form? Keep up the good work and thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. From Ben. How did you say the last name again?
I don't have it in front of me. What was it? Kochevin? Ben Kochevin.
Or Kochevin?
Kochevin.
All right, so that was a good question. A little long-winded, but that was good. So basically his question was, he's 17% now. When do we recommend him stopping? So again, we don't know where he started, but he's at 17 right now after dieting for a while, which again, he didn't say how long.
Yeah, so that's going to depend on a few things. One, obviously, like you said, is going to be how long the diet duration is. Obviously, if it's a very long period of time, then there might be a reason to kind of reverse that diet a little bit, maybe start a lean bulk, go back to it, do a diet break, something like that. The other major thing is how low your calories are at this point. If your diet duration is very long, but your calories are not severely low yet, I would say keep pushing it, because you still have wiggle room with the diet. The two things you want to avoid are being in a big deficit for a very long period of time and being in a very severe deficit. Those are the two things. If it hasn't been a very long diet, keep pushing. If your calories are not too low, keep pushing, because you still have some room to lose body fat at 17%. But if it's been a very long diet and your calories are very low, I definitely recommend you taking some type of diet break, or maybe starting your lean mass phase and then finishing off your cut. But most likely, you probably still have some more wiggle room to go down. Like I said, unless your calories are very low. But you could always do a short diet break and then continue it if you want to finish it off.
Yeah, I agree with that advice 100%. Take maybe a little bit of diet break depending on how long you've been dieting. We said several months. I mean, I don't know how long that several months is, but I would definitely say a diet break would be good right now. Maybe a week or two, bringing yourself back up to maintenance. So where would you say if he's at 2,000 calories right now, maybe like just 2,300, 2,400, something like that?
Yeah, bump him up a little bit. Nothing drastic. Like, you're not trying to double or triple your calories or do anything like that. But, just boosting up your carbs a little bit. I have no idea where his carbs could be. But, if you're at like 250, 200, something like that, you could boost them up to about 300, 350, throw another 100 grams of carbs in there, maybe 50 grams of carbs, depending how severe you're dieting. And, that's really going to be the main thing that's going to spike your metabolism back up if it is decreasing from the long diet. So you want to make sure you bring the carbs up. Don't go crazy eating junk food where you're just going to get tons of fat in there or anything like that. Bring your carbs up, give yourself a little bit of a break from it, and then just drop them back down and keep going.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And then once you get to the 10 or 12, or when you're happy with how you look, just for the simple fact that he's questioning if you should still diet, that usually means you should still diet.
Yeah, based on that, it sounds like you should keep going a little bit. But if you need that break in there, do it. But don't do it because you feel like it's just going to make things easier. You're going to have to suffer a little bit if you're dieting. But if you're not putting your body through severely low calories or a severely long diet right now, you might not need it. If you have, then that'll definitely help you. So you just have to assess if it's more of a mental thing or a physical thing at this point.
Yeah, and he also mentions here, what would be the optimal diet duration for a non-muscular obese person to get them lean and healthy? When we talk about diet in general, we're not just talking about bodybuilders. Unless we're talking about contest prep specifically, you could apply that information to anybody. Even if you work out 3 times a week in the gym, you could still listen to the advice that we give and still apply it, because nutrition is nutrition no matter what. Doesn't matter what your goals are. If your goal is to lose fat, everybody's pretty much a bodybuilder. Anyone who wants to improve their physique is a bodybuilder at some sense of the word.
Right. Yeah,
so
you're still building the body.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter, whether you're a non-muscular person who doesn't really work out, or just the average person, you could still listen to this information and apply it. So don't get mixed up in that.
Yeah, so that the diet duration is going to be the same for everybody, and I always like to say take as long as you need to lose the amount of weight you need at the appropriate rate, and the appropriate rate is generally somewhere between 0.5 pound a week and 1.5 pounds a week. Depending on what you're doing, if you're contest prepping or if you're competing in something, that time frame might change a little bit because you have a deadline. But as far as the person just trying to lose weight, that's a great place to start. As long as you're losing weight somewhere in between there, you're making progress.
All right, guys. So again, if you have a question or a case study that you'd like us to answer, submit it on our website, newyorkmuscleradio.com/listener question. All right, man, let's take a short commercial break.
What's up, New York Muscle Radio listeners? It's your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian, and I'm glad you're all listening. Put down that tilapia and asparagus. Learn how to get bigger, stronger, and leaner eating what you want. Pick up a copy of Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code exclusively at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. But for now, let's get to the show.
Hey guys, it's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, and I just wanted to announce that my brand new personal training facility is now open. I'm currently taking on new clients in the Long Island, New York area. If you're interested in working with the best personal trainer in the business, head on over to abfitnesstrainer.com and sign up for your free consultation. Then you can understand why bodybuilding.com has named me Personal Trainer of the Month. All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 116, Nutrition for Powerlifting. So right away, powerlifters listening to this like, I know how to train. I'm getting stronger. What does it matter, nutrition? Well, nutrition is key to anything. Right, big guy?
Absolutely. And like I said earlier in the beginning of this podcast, I think it's one of the things that powerlifters neglect. And I think if they're
not one of, definitely.
It's definitely
thing.
Probably, the thing. And it's also the thing that I think can take a powerlifter from good to great beyond the training. Because once you have the training down and you're strong and you're able to progress, you don't really have too many other variables to play with. And in powerlifting, your weight is going to play a role, especially if you have too much weight on you that's excess and you need to diet down. That's going to help you. If you could even move a weight class down, if you want to get a lower body weight so that your Wilks score goes up, there's going to be so many times where making sure your diet is in place is going to actually help you do better in powerlifting. And like I said, it's something that powerlifters do neglect. So if they take advantage of nutrition, they're going to have an advantage over people who don't, really take advantage over nutrition.
Exactly. And besides the fact that, up and down in weight classes and whatnot, you also have your performance, your daily gym performance, which is going to be based on your nutrition and your daily habits. And then your meet day performance also, which is going to be important for your nutrition. But we'll touch on that later. So I guess we'll just move on to the next thing. Why do powerlifters neglect nutrition, you think?
I think the mentality is very different for a bodybuilder and a powerlifter, because I think most powerlifters, at least the majority of them, really just care about being strong. They don't care if they have to put on 10 pounds of body fat to get their lifts up 5 pounds. Some of them just want to keep adding weight to the bar. They want to be as strong as humanly possible. Some of them just want to be as big as humanly possible. So it doesn't matter if that weight comes from fat, from muscle, from water, from whatever. They just want to eat and they want to lift heavy. And, there's nothing wrong with that if that's your goals. But like I said, if your goal is to be the best competitive powerlifter, then that's not going to be the optimal way to go about it. That could definitely take you far, just getting heavy, lifting heavy, getting strong. It's definitely all going to play together, and it's going to be all beneficial. But like I said, when you get to the point where you're going to have to start, if your goal is to be the best that you can, you're definitely going to have to pay attention to nutrition. There's no way around it.
Yeah, well, I think like you said, you touched on a good topic there. That they rather gain, put on 10 pounds to add 5 pounds to their lifts. And that's because it's easier to gain fat than it is to gain muscle. So it's easy to put on 10 pounds of fat and just change your leverages, which is, again, something that we're going to talk about. But it's easy to do that versus having patience and waiting for the muscle to actually come on. Because naturally, as we know, gaining muscle is like watching paint dry.
Yeah, and if you said to me, for whatever reason, if you said, listen, you're gonna make $1 million if you could add 100 pounds to your squat by X date, my instinct would be, okay, I have to get really heavy really fast so that I get stronger. Just by adding 20 or 30 pounds of weight on my body, my squat's gonna go up or my bench is gonna go up or whatever it is, just because I'm bigger. So I think the powerlifter mentality is very similar to that. Okay, I scored here. I need to get my lifts and my total up to here by next meet. Okay, what am I going to do? I got to get heavier, I got to get bigger, I got to get stronger.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, I had to go up a weight class. So usually when you go up a weight class, you obviously have to gain weight to get to that weight class. But usually you like to spend some time above that weight class also. So if you're competing in the 205 class, normally you're a little bit heavier than 205, up until the meet, and then you drop a couple pounds, just to make weight for that meet. Usually you're trained a little bit above your weight class. But for me, I just feel like if I do that, I feel too fat, man. I don't know. Like, I sound like a girl right now by saying that, but I feel like out of shape. It's weird. I can't explain it. I just don't feel good. Like, I don't feel good with extra fat on my body.
Well, I'll tell you from my experience, I definitely can relate to that. I mean, I've only done one powerlifting meet, and it had nothing to do with me being overweight or underweight. But when I diet down and when I bulk up for off-season purposes, I always, when I start a contest prep or if I just start a dieting phase, when I get that initial 10 pounds off of me, I always feel so much better. Your body likes to sit around a certain weight, and I think a lot of powerlifters kind of push that a little bit further than maybe a bodybuilder or the average person in the gym. And when you lose that little bit of excess weight to the point where you're not too lean, where your performance starts to drop off or your body starts to resist weight loss or fat loss, just getting that water off, that little bit of extra fat, your body tends to perform a lot better. I know when I start dieting, after I lose the first 10 pounds, my performance in the gym goes up. And, when you're contest dieting, when you get to the end of it, or you're just dieting in general and you get very lean, when you get to the end of it, your performance is shit. It just gets progressively worse. But you get an initial boost overall because your fitness levels go up a little bit when you have that excess weight off of you. So I think for powerlifters, a lot of them don't have experience doing that. And I think, they fear if I drop down 10, 20 pounds, I'm not going to be as strong as I am now because I'm going to be smaller. But if it's 10 or 20 pounds of just excess water, excess fat, it's not really doing much. It's not helping you. Again, leverages will play a role in that, but that's to a certain degree.
Well, we'll touch on that and the leverages thing in a minute. I know it's important, but I think powerlifters really neglect nutrition because it's complicated. And it could definitely be, it's one of those things that's like, it's really scary if you don't understand it,
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that too. When I first started training in general, there's so much information out there as far as building muscle, losing fat, and just overall performance, and they all contradict each other. So you have to kind of pick one and then stick with it and see if that works. And if it doesn't work, you got to try something new. But I think it's very easy because the formula for powerlifting is pretty simple. Train heavy and train progressively and get stronger. You can't really mess that up. There's definitely better ways to go about it than others. But with nutrition, you could definitely mess up your nutrition. And another thing that might be a reason powerlifters really don't like to pay too much attention to it, especially with cutting weight, is there's very few ways that you can drop fat without it affecting your performance. And it's very hard for most people to do that. And I think a lot of powerlifters, if they might try an approach that's supposed to work and they try it and their performance starts to drop off, they immediately panic and they say, you know what, I'm not gonna drop weight because I'm weaker. But there's ways to
Yeah.
do it. You know better than anybody that you can drop. How much weight did you drop from your first meet and your strength went up the whole way?
20?
Yeah, you dropped 20 pounds and your total went up throughout the whole training cycle. So, there's ways to do it. You have to do it optimally. You can't just crash diet or cut out carbs completely or cut out fats completely or do anything crazy like that, because you will suffer from it and your strength will go down.
Yeah. So let's talk about changing leverages, because we mentioned it a couple times already. So you could change your leverages and how you lift by losing weight or gaining weight. So first of all, leverages are the certain points during a lift that your body kind of plays a role. So let's just say for bench press, you bring the bar down to your chest, you touch your chest, you push it up. If you're heavier and you're fatter, I guess I don't know if that's politically correct to say, but whatever. If you're fatter,
definitely.
the bar is going to have to travel less than if you're leaner, because if you're leaner, there's less space. Obviously, fat takes up space. So let's just say it's even within a few millimeters. It still makes up a lot of space for the bar to actually move. So when you're leaner, usually, for me personally too, as soon as I diet down, my bench press usually suffers because it increases my range of motion on my bench press because the leverage is changed there.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing for me when I diet down. The bench press will definitely take the biggest hit and probably the hit first. I'd say deadlifts are probably the least out of the three and squats somewhere in the middle. But again, it depends on how much weight you lose, your leverages, and everybody loses weight differently too. So people lose weight from different areas of their body first. I'm one of those people.
I always lose from my neck and my chest right away.
You see,
my arms.
I'm the opposite. I always lose. It's almost like my body loses fat off the back first before anything. My back could be shredded and my abs might not be visible yet. That's how my body works. So I lose leverages differently than a lot of people. Not leverages, I lose body fat, but yeah,
I look like a crackhead.
That's definitely an accurate statement. That's funny. But
my face, my chest, like my whole upper body like shrivels.
Yeah, you see, what's funny about me? I can get in contest conditioning and my face will still be slightly full. I never have that drawn face, and then in the off season, my face just blows up and gets fat. So it's a double-edged sword, but I never have that drawn face. I
never get the fat face.
That's good, man.
I feel like
you're the only person I know.
I don't know, man. Because I hate that. Because if I diet down, I look like 50 Cent in that movie.
I know.
What was the name of that movie again?
I forget what it was called. Yeah, but
he's like the crackhead or whatever he was.
You're the white 50 Cent, man.
Yeah, in that movie. But anyway, and you could also change your leverages for the better if you're gaining weight. So if you need to move up a weight class, you could change your leverages because, again, if you gain weight, and we'll use bench press again for an example, you have to press that bar less. Because you could, honestly, it's funny because we're just talking about touching the chest here, but, that space between your forearm and your bicep, if you add a little fat to your arms, that changes the leverages you have to push also. So, these are all things that come into play. So whenever you're losing weight or gaining weight, you're going to be changing the leverages either for the plus or for the minus. But if you do it slowly in either direction, you're not going to see much change. And this is where I think powerlifters are afraid of too. Like you said, they're afraid to lose weight because they're afraid they're going to get weaker. But if you lose weight correctly, like how we recommend on New York Muscle Radio, nice and slow deficit, small deficit, you're not going to be losing weight that rapidly that you can't that those changing leverages are going to catch you by surprise, and one day you're just going to get under the bar and get crushed. It's not going to happen, because you're losing weight at such a slow rate and you're going to be retaining more muscle that it's almost going to be non-existent.
Yeah, and you can gauge it pretty much workout to workout. As you're dropping weight week by week, you get a feel for it each workout. Okay, is my strength starting to suffer a little bit? Is it still okay? You might go in the gym and be dieting for 2-3 weeks, and you walk in and you just still feel strong, and you just keep pushing in that direction. If you're starting to diet and all of a sudden you're starting to feel weak, you feel like your leverages are off, the weight's getting heavier, then you're onto something wrong. You got to change it up. So that's the whole point of taking things slowly.
Yeah, in either direction.
Absolutely, always. Because if you're even trying to gain weight and you're just putting on, like I said, excess weight that's not going to benefit you, then it's actually going to make your performance worse because your fitness levels are going to go down. You're not going to be able to train the same way if you're just carrying around extra weight that's not helping you.
So this brings me to my next question, because it seems like we're pushing for more. The heavier you are, the lighter everything will be. But so does that mean that you could get fat and eat whatever you want for powerlifting meat, Big Pete?
I guess it depends on your goals, to be honest with you, and it depends on your metabolism, because fat is relative. You know what I mean? Like if you told me your goal is just to get as strong as possible, my my plan would be closer for me, for myself, would be closer to just pretty much eating whatever I want, because I know the way my body works. It's really not gonna go above a certain body fat percentage as long as I'm training and as long as I have some type of dietary restriction. What I mean by that is not force feeding myself beyond the point of getting sick, because I can pretty much do that and still stay about the same weight. But for
just feel really fat. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. That's the way it happens, But for other people, some of them might have to be on a restricted calorie diet all year round, and they might still be a little bit on the higher end of where they should be, unless their goal is strictly fat loss. But it's going to be different for everybody, and I'd say that to answer it generally, I'd say that's probably not the best way to go about it, But if you're somebody who is very lean naturally, then that's probably a way you do want to go about it. But for most people, you want to avoid getting overly fat. Overly fat's not going to help you. I mean, if you look now at the best powerlifters in the world, in whatever organization, even people who don't compete, if you look at the strongest guys, they're not really these fat guys that you used to see years ago on the powerlifting platform. I don't know if you ever remember going and seeing issues of Powerlifting USA magazine, and there's always a big guy on the cover, and he was always really fat too. You don't really see that anymore. You see like these guys that like Dan Green and these guys that just look like bodybuilders, and it just goes to show you that the weights are going up now. Everyone's getting stronger, but guys aren't getting fatter. They're getting more muscular, and they're lean.
And well, everyone's on hormone replacement therapy.
Well, it's got to be the hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as far as doesn't mean I can get fat and eat whatever I want. I mean, you can eat whatever you want anyway, whether you're dieting or not. This is what we preach in Cracking the Flexible Dieting Code, our signature ebook found on NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. You can eat anything you want and still get in shape and get really lean. So the eating whatever you want part of it, that's you could do that in either direction. But like I said, when I was trying to push the envelope and try to get above 205 to really sit higher up in my weight class, I just didn't feel good, man. My carbs were at 6 something. I was never hungry, and it's just terrible. It's just a terrible feeling to feel like that, And I don't know. For me, I would not say that getting fat is the answer. I mean, everybody's different, but it's like for you. I know you've never been over 190, you said?
Maybe like 192 at best. Actually, yeah, 192, 183 is probably the highest I've ever. I sit comfortably at about 185, 190.
Yeah, that's like me telling you, all right, Pete, go ahead. I want you to get up to 205 and stay there. You'd be really uncomfortable getting there really fast.
Yes, definitely. And my advice to anybody is, if you're trying to move up a weight class, don't force yourself up a weight class. Let it happen naturally. If your body doesn't want to go up a weight class,
jumping ahead.
This is in the notes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's not talk about that. But the goal I'd say honestly is if your goal is to be as strong as possible, be as strong as possible at the weight that your body wants to stay at. And if you start to grow out of that, then good. But if you force yourself out of that, you might be setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. Might be. It depends on every situation. But a general rule of thumb I'd say is let your body tell you where it wants to sit, then try and be as strong as that. Because if you were, let's just say, to eat comfortably, your body's going to fall at a certain weight that it likes to stay at. Like I said, for me, it's somewhere between 185, 190. If I try and go beyond that, I don't all of a sudden get stronger. I don't all of a sudden get bigger. I just maybe lay down a little bit of excess fat that really does nothing for me. If I go below that, then my strength might suffer. So if your goal is to be the strongest that you can possibly be, let your body guide you. And eventually, my body weight starts to creep up a little bit. Like I said, it's somewhere between 185, 190. And if you're somebody who pays attention to body fat levels a lot like I do, going up 1, 2, 3 pounds, even over the course of a year, that's significant progress in terms of muscle mass added and not just excess fat. And that happens over time. So your weight will go up slowly and naturally. It doesn't mean that you're going to stay at 185 forever. But if that's where your body wants to be right now, that's where I recommend keeping it.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about dieting down to a weight class. So my goal for my first powerlifting meet was I was sitting around 198, something like that, which is where my body likes to normally sit. And I feel comfortable at that weight. I feel pretty lean at that weight. I feel good. It's a good off-season weight for me. So I'm at 198, and I decide I want to do a powerlifting meet. And the weight classes go 83 kilo, 93 kilo, or 82 kilo. I'm sorry, 82 kilo, 93 kilo, and then the 105. So I said, I'm right in the middle between the two. I said, I don't want to gain weight. I'm going to diet. I said, I think I could retain all my strength and diet down and be better off at a lower weight class. So I dieted down for my first powerlifting meet. I got down to almost contest ready conditioning. I competed on stage at 175. I was 179 at my meet. So 177, I'm sorry, 177. So I was right there. I could have literally stepped on a bodybuilding stage that day also. And I ended up doing really, really well. For me, though, I felt like I couldn't train optimally enough at that weight class because I was at the border of that weight class. Like it was very hard for me to maintain that weight. I'd almost have to lose muscle to stay in that class. So it was just the next logical progression for me to move up a weight class into the 93 kilo class. But it's almost like, just talking about this now, just talking about it out loud. If I wanted to move from the 93 to the 105, that's 205 to 230. I'd never make it.
Right. And like I said, you'd pretty much be setting yourself up for failure because the only way you'd get there is just adding excess fat. And like I said, that's a big jump. You said you competed at what, 179?
Yeah, 177.
177, and then you moved up to, what was it, 190?
Yeah, the last meet I was like 198.
Right, so so you moved up almost 20 pounds. You moved about 20 pounds. Now, that 20 pounds you moved up, definitely there's extra added body fat. Your muscles are going to fill out a little bit more. Your body's going to naturally be more comfortable there. Then to push it up to 230, beyond that, that's only excess body fat that's not going to help you. The body fat that you put on between 170 to 190, the 20 pounds or so, that's body fat that will benefit you because, like I said, if you're too lean, your leverages are going to be off. Your hormone levels might even not be optimal. You're so lean, your body's just not naturally going to feel good. That amount of weight gain is going to benefit you. Beyond that, I can't see any additional benefit.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so dieting down to a weight class, you could definitely do it successfully. And this is where me and my co-host here, we're going to talk about how you should diet down for a weight class. But it can be done. I did a successful ring of meets at the 83 kilo class, and I did relatively well. I even won a meet at that weight class. So, you could definitely diet down. So how do you recommend someone dieting down? So talk about this since, we kind of went through this together here.
Yeah, well, dieting down, if your goal is powerlifting or if it's bodybuilding or if it's just physique goals, it's all going to be very similar, but there's one major thing you're going to have to emphasize during powerlifting, and that's you want to make sure your performance doesn't sacrifice. You never really want your performance to sacrifice if your goal is bodybuilding or physique or whatever, because you do want to still train heavy to retain as much muscle, but there's definitely an added emphasis on training because that's your primary focus in powerlifting. And if you take your training out of the equation, you're totally neglecting your goal. So the goal is not necessarily just fat loss. You need to lose weight, and you want your performance to stay high. So that's the biggest thing. The way to go about that is, like I said, similar to how you would approach dieting for any other thing. You want to make sure that your calories remain as high as possible while still getting the job done. So if you're able to lose weight on 3,000 calories a day, there's no reason to drop them down to 2,500. There's no reason to go as low as 2,000. So you want to take a nice, slow, steady approach to it. Do you want me to get into the specifics, or you want to start with that?
No, I mean, you can.
The specifics are you want to make sure your protein's obviously high enough so you're maintaining enough muscle mass, and if you're going to build any muscle that it's required, so like I say, for most people, somewhere in that range, a gram and a half of protein per pound of body weight is definitely a good place to start. Your fats, you don't want, from men, you really don't want to drop them. I'd say at any weight, you don't want to go below. I mean, a good goal is to have somewhere between 0.35 and half a gram of fat per pound of body weight. So a male weighing, 180 pounds, you want to have somewhere between, I'd say 60 to 90 grams a day. I really don't recommend going much lower than that, 50 at the very minimum. And then your calories.
It's 90 grams of fat a day? I guess if their calories are high enough.
If your calories are high enough, you keep them at there. You're definitely going to have to drop them low. That's a good range for anybody. But, you want to try and keep them as high. If you're able to diet on that, keep them at 90 grams. If you have to drop them low, drop them lower. But like I said, I wouldn't go much lower than 50 or 60 grams. And then, like I said, the rest of your calories are going to come pretty much for carbohydrates. So carbs are something you don't want to cut out completely, because if you do that, your performance is really going to sacrifice, So you want to make sure that they're high enough. So in that case, if your carbs start to go too low, then you definitely want to pull your fats down. But again, you don't want to pull them down too low.
Yeah. One of the other things too we want you guys to remember is that dieting just in general is really hard. It's not easy. You're gonna feel it some days. You're gonna be really tired. You're not gonna want to train. I mean, that just comes generally, but when you're dieting, you kind of almost feel that a little bit more, especially as you get leaner. But in the beginning too, you're gonna definitely feel a lot stronger because you're gonna be like Pete said, your fitness levels are gonna go up. You're gonna feel better. So there's a lot of pluses to dieting down for a weight class. And it's for the simple fact of when I dieted down, I thought I was going to be more competitive, and the simple fact of the matter is I was. It's just that it wasn't maintainable for me to stay at that level. So I had to move up a weight class, and I feel really comfortable in the 93 class. I have a lot more room to grow out of this weight class. So I'll be in this weight class for a while. And in this weight class, I'll probably be doing a lot of recomp phases where I'll be dieting down and bulking up, dieting down, bulking up, in hoping that I'll eventually be 210 and, a little bit leaner than where I'm at now.
Yeah, that's really a good goal, and I think that everyone should strive for that, especially if they have been training for a long period of time and they've put on a significant amount of muscle and they're at the point where their total or any individual lift is not really going to move up too much over a short period of time. Really try and just master your weight and master that weight class. Keep redefining where your weight is. So if you sit comfortably at 200 pounds, keep redefining your body composition at 200 pounds. You could always add a little muscle, burn a little fat, and still stay in that weight class, still stay around that weight. And I really think that that's a good goal to have because, like I said, even for myself, my body likes to stay at a certain weight class or a weight range. I don't train specifically for powerlifting. I'm not a competitive powerlifter. I have competed in powerlifting, but regardless if my goals are bodybuilding,
I've been trying to get him to do it again.
Yeah, regardless of what my goals are, my body tends to like to sit right at a certain weight. But every year, my body composition at that weight changes, and it generally changes in favor of adding more muscle and having less body fat on me. So your body likes to sit at a certain weight. It doesn't always. This is something that a lot of people don't really talk about, but the fact is, everyone always talks about body fat set point and where your body likes to sit, but your body also has, I like to call it, your body weight set point. There's a weight that it likes to sit at, and it will prefer to sit at that weight regardless of your body composition. If you have to be fat at that weight or if you have to be lean at that weight, it generally likes to stick at that weight too. So yes, body fat set point definitely exists, and it's definitely a major thing, but body weight set point is also a major thing that your body likes to sit at. So I can't tell you how many times my body's forced me to put on weight to get back up to a certain range or lose weight to stay at a certain range, regardless of what I'm doing with my calories and where it wants to sit with my body fat percentage. Eventually it will even out and go back to where it normally does, but it likes to kind of get to that weight first.
All right, we're going to talk about gaining weight into a weight class. But before we do that, I just want to touch on, because now we're talking about it and thinking about it. Do you think cardio, I mean, I know we hear cardio, everyone's like, oh my God, is that Spanish? But, cardio, do you think it has a role for dieting down and gaining weight? Do you think that if a powerlifter kept a little bit of cardio in there that, because there are studies that show that you can do cardio and you can do weight training and you're not going to, detrain, which is a big myth that guys think they have. So do you think, so if I wanted to gain weight, let's just use me as an example. I wanted to get to 215, sit right in the middle of my class. Do you think if I did a little bit of cardio, it would help?
I don't think it would hurt. It would only hurt if it took away from your training. That's the biggest thing. And you train with very high volume, so you're definitely getting cardio in there. But if you train to the point where you have to stick cardio in there and it's taking away from your training intensity and it's taking too much time out of your training, then it might hinder you. But I think if it's not taking away from your time, if you have the time to do it and it's not impacting your recovery, I definitely don't see it having any negative impact. I think it becomes negative when you lose focus over your main goal, which is obviously getting stronger and training. So
yeah, I mean that's obviously everyone's goal when it comes to powerlifting. But you know what it is? For me, I hate feeling out of shape, I like being leaner. I like being a little bit leaner, which is fine. That's my personal preference. I like to, be able to see my abs and stuff like that. If I can't see my abs, I'm like freaking out, So for me to even think about being at 215, it's like, oh man, I'd be a mess at 215.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, when I diet down, another thing that I do, like I said, my fitness and my performance increases when I lose that initial body fat. But when I start doing, let's say, high intensity interval training for a slightly extended period of time, obviously that's going to boost your fitness a lot. That's going to have a major role in your cardiovascular capacity. And when I do that, my training with weights becomes much easier because I won't have to sit down in between sets, or I'll move a lot faster between sets, and my training performance goes up so much. So then that's obviously going to aid in you getting stronger. If you could perform better each workout during training, then obviously your strength levels are going to go up. So I do think that will play a role, but something like high intensity cardio, which, like I said, really helps with that can easily have a negative effect just as fast as a positive when that's your goal, because that beats you up very bad if you do it excessively. So
exactly.
It's about,
I was just going to say, if you want, yeah, that's a good point, managing it. Because if you did just something like even 3 hit intervals after a workout, 3 hit intervals are nothing, 0.
Right.
You could probably get a lot of benefit out of doing that, a couple times a week versus not doing any.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good way to go about it for powerlifters too, not necessarily cramming them all into one workout.
Yeah.
Because 10 intervals, it doesn't sound like a lot, especially if you're spacing them out with a 45-second rest, a 15-second working ratio. It's 10 minutes. 10 minutes of cardio, how much is that going to beat you up? But I'll tell you, if you do high-intensity interval training correctly, 10 minutes of it in one session will beat you up, and you're not going to want to do it again the next day. You'll be happy if you have to do it the next week. So I think for performance purposes and maybe not fat loss is the primary goal, doing, like you said, even 3 at one time and then kind of splitting them up throughout the week, doing them more frequently, will have more carryover into your performance.
Yeah, I also think too, if you're preparing for a meet, you should dial back the cardio.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be kind of counterproductive to what you're trying to focus on. So these are the things that we're talking about doing in the off season. The time that you're not spending during your meet prep. You want to say contest prep. So if you're giving yourself 12 weeks to prepare for this meet, you should try to dial back all the cardio if you can up until that point. I have clients who are competing in powerlifting, and they were doing a lot of cardio beforehand. So actually, I have them taper down the cardio into the meet. So this way they're still getting the benefit from it. And actually, they're actually losing weight as they go.
Yeah, so, and hit cardio especially. There's a lag period after you stop doing it as far as it improving your fitness. So it's cardio. People might think, okay, if I stop, let's say I do cardio every day for 6 months. The day I stop doing cardio is the day that my body stops performing at the same fitness levels as it does. But hit cardio tends to have more of a lagging effect, or I don't know if lagging is the best word, but your fitness levels will still stay elevated and improved for a longer period of time after you do it. They will drop off, but if you cut it, let's say 3 or 4 weeks out from your meet day, you're not necessarily going to detrain as far as cardiovascular, especially if you're still training with weights. It will still keep it pretty much at maintenance where it is. So you don't have to do it up until the day of the meet or anything like that.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about gaining weight for a weight class. So, we touched on gaining weight. Obviously, you want to do it. You want to take your time doing it. I would say you want to be about 300 calories above your maintenance. You don't need to be, okay, I'm trying to gain weight. Let me just eat whatever I want, YOLO bulk, and get that. It's not going to be the most, beneficial way to do it. And we'll talk about also when your weight gain stalls, what you think you should do. But those are, I think, the 2 basic rules here. You're going to take your time. You're going to be 300 calories above your maintenance, and you're just going to ride that out.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You don't really have to do too much else. And like I said, the biggest mistake people make is forcing themselves up a weight class. And I really don't recommend doing that. And I'll use myself as an example again, because I'm definitely one of these people this applies to. If I wanted to move up to the next weight class, which it's 205, the next weight class, I believe.
Wait, for you?
Yeah.
No, you'll be in the 82 kilo to 93, 205.
Yeah, 205. So like I said, if I'm sitting right now about 190, 195, let's say, and I have to move up another 10 pounds, if I want to go to the top and if I want to move up the weight class, the way my body works, like I said, it likes to sit pretty much at a certain weight. So I would have to force it up that weight class. Now, for me, if I'm going to take the slow and steady approach, basically I'm going to hit a wall. If I bring my calories up 300 calories higher, I'm going to hit a wall. I might have to keep going up. But if I do that slowly and allow my body to move up the weight class, that's going to happen much better, and my body's going to sit much more comfortably at that heavier weight class. If I just go on the YOLO bulk, like you said, and I start just downing calories, the only thing that's going to happen to me is my body's just going to store excess body fat, and my insulin sensitivity is going to go down. My body's not going to handle carbs well. I'm just going to look like a mess, and my performance is definitely going to go down. That's going to be the biggest thing because, again, now I'm just carrying excess water. I'm carrying excess fat. It's going to make me more lazy during my training. I'm not going to get as much out of my training.
You're going to have to sit a lot more.
Yeah, and I'm not going to, my strength levels are not necessarily going to go up. Now, if I sit comfortably at the weight I am now and allow myself slowly to creep up in that weight class, when it happens, it happens. You know what I mean? Not trying to get up a weight class in 2-3 months.
Exactly. You know? The other thing, too, is you're trying to add muscle because muscle is really the only thing that moves weight. You know, we talked about leverages and with fat and so on, but that only works, I think, for a certain amount of pounds. After that, I would say that, you know, from the amount of muscle that you have, so let's just say for me, for example, whatever, 175, let's just say I was like 175, shredded, peeled, bodybuilding status, you know, not 1 ounce of body fat on me. That 20 pounds that let's just say I put on of body fat is probably all I need as far as to change my leverages enough. Right. Anything more than that, it's going to change my leverages too, but it's also, I'm going to be detraining.
Right. There's going to be a point of diminishing returns, that's for sure. And, you know, like you said, it's not much in terms of weight. You know, you're taking a 200-pound guy, and we're talking about 20 pounds can make the difference. 50 pounds, 60 pounds, that's just crazy overkill. And you do see so many guys competing that heavy over where they can be and still be as strong. And like I said, you know, you're going to do much better if you're a weight class above where you should be just because you have excess body fat, then why not just lose it?
Yeah, and be really strong at the weight class below you.
Like I said, a bodybuilder's mentality and a powerlifter's mentality are very different, you know. Like I said, I'm on here talking about how I'm sitting around 190. A powerlifter listening to this right now at 230, 240 is like, the fuck does this guy know? He's 190, you know? You know, in reality, the 230-pound powerlifter might sit around 190 if he loses the excess body fat that he doesn't need. And then he'll be much stronger at a lighter weight class. You know, I could get up to 230, but it's not going to help me, you know?
Exactly.
So
well, I wouldn't worry about, you know, the guy who's 240 listening to this podcast saying, what does this guy 190 know what he's talking about? Because I've beaten guys who are around 240. And I weigh 190.
Right. Well, that's the point I'm trying to make. Those 240-pound guys listening to this could be those guys at 190 beating the guys in that weight class. So
exactly. The other thing too I want to touch on. We talked about gaining weight and getting insulin sensitive. I think we should probably make this a tip actually, but maybe we'll do that. We'll make this a tip and go more into it. A secret ingredient I have, secret weapon I have for aiding in that, which really makes a big difference. Apple cider vinegar. We talked about this before. You have to get the one with the mother in it. You know, it sounds really bro sciencey, but that really helps improve insulin sensitivity. When I had my carbs up at 600, it's just so high for my body. I couldn't handle it. And I felt like I just wasn't using any of the food that I was eating. I slowly backed off the calories and I added in the apple cider vinegar, and I feel so much better. I feel like my body's just responding better to the calories. I mean, granted, it could have been from dropping the carbs back as well, but I do feel like apple cider vinegar does help in that sense because I've used it while dieting, and I feel like my body always is a little more insulin sensitive when I use it.
Yeah, and you know, I use it every single time I diet down, and I can't tell you how much I think it helps. Again, if your calories in versus calories out is going to be your major driving force for fat loss, and you can't replace that. You know, you can't just add apple cider vinegar in and expect to lose extra weight. But you know, your goal, like I said, is always to diet and lose weight on as high calories as possible and as high carbs especially as possible. And I always find that I am able to keep my carbs significantly higher when I am maximizing my insulin sensitivity. And apple cider vinegar is definitely one of the best things I can recommend for that as well. I didn't say this, and I actually thought it was funny. I didn't know that he used it, but I heard Matt Ogus one time say that he uses it for fat loss, and he says he likes to consider it. You know, someone asked, do you need it? He says, I like to consider it the creatine of fat loss. You know, it definitely has some benefits. It's not gonna make or break your diet, but I definitely think it helps. So that's a good way to kind of, you know, if someone asks, does it really work? Does it really help?
Try it and see.
You know, yeah, it's gonna help definitely. It's not gonna do anything major if your diet's not in place. It's not gonna work without it. But if you have everything in place and you add that in, it definitely help you.
All right. So what are you gonna do if your weight gain stalls? So if let's just say you're trying to move up a weight class and your weight gain stalls. Remember, moving up a weight class doesn't have to happen overnight. You don't have to put on 20 pounds overnight to get there. You know, I recommend doing all this, trying to move up a weight class. Do it all in the off season. Don't try to do it while you're on prep mode. On the way to a meet. Don't try to do that. That's not the smart way to go about it. But Again, if your weight gain stalls, you want to do this slowly. You want to add around 100 to 200 calories to your current intake. And I would say wait 2 to 3 weeks before making a change. Just because this 1 week you don't make progress, there's no reason to add more calories and add more calories, because more than likely you don't need that. Just sometimes it takes a little bit of time for your body to start synthesizing those extra calories. Adding a boatload of calories will just make you get fat.
Yeah, I mean the key is really just slow and steady. The same way you would approach dieting. You know, if put yourself in the situation where if you're dieting down, if you go 1 week on lower calories and you don't lose more than half a pound, or you lose maybe a quarter of a pound, are you going to freak out and you're going to drop 5, 6, 700, 800 additional calories? No, you're going to drop a little bit more off, because why do any more than you have to? You know, it's only going to be negative at that point. So the same thing when trying to bulk up. The first week or two, if you don't really gain too much, add a little bit more. And, you know, find where you need to do to allow your body to move up a weight class. Don't force it. You'll get to the point where, like I said, if you might hit a wall, you might have to start forcing the food down, because I'll get to a point where, you know, I might have to start eating way more than I even want to get that weight moving. But again, allow yourself to get to that point. Your body is going to respond much better. It doesn't like to be forced in any one direction. And trust me, it will push back.
All right, so the next topic that we have to discuss is called weight cuts. Weight cutting for a weight class, cutting for a meet. A lot of people do this. I think we should make this a whole podcast on its own, so I'm going to omit it from this podcast, so be on the lookout for that one in the future. But again, just a basic thing with weight cuts, don't do anything drastic. That's all I'm going to say. Don't do anything drastic, and if it sounds like it's, you know, horrible, don't do it. You know, you don't want to be, you're going into a meet, you want to be at your optimal performance. If you're dehydrated, depleted, and lacking nutrients, you're not going to feel good. You're not going to be able to perform that day. That's all I'm going to say on that. We're going to make that a podcast in its own, and we're just going to move on from there. So the last thing that we want to talk about is going to be gym performance and meet day performance, because these two are also intertwined with your importance of nutrition. So obviously you need to perform at the most optimal amount every day in the gym in order to get the most out of your training, and this is where your nutrition is going to come into play. If you're kind of YOLOing it and just eating whatever, you know, some days you may have more energy than others. You don't want that to happen. So your nutrition has to be on point for your gym performance to be good. And remember, every gym session is a practice session for a meet. And meet day too is extremely important when it comes to nutrition. A lot of guys, you know, they're not fueled up right. They don't know what to do on meet day in order to get there. I've done weight cuts where I've dropped, you know, almost 10 pounds during the weight cut, and still was able to perform that day because I knew what to add in.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I mean, again, if you're planning for an event, then you want to prepare during training for that event. So as far as your nutrition and whatever rituals you have day-to-day training, those should all be in line with what you're going to do the day of the meet. You know, people so many times do things completely out of the ordinary because they think they're going to add additional benefit. You know, the benefit that you're going to get is something that you're going to maintain on a day-to-day, weekly-to-weekly basis, and you just want to repeat that day of the meet. You don't want to change it up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, again, for your gym performance, you want to make sure you're taking in an optimal amount of carbohydrates, whether you're dieting or trying to gain. You want to make sure your carbohydrates are there. You want to make sure you're getting ample amount of protein in order to help you recover. And you want to make sure you're getting ample amount of fat, as we covered earlier in this, to make sure that you're optimizing your hormone levels and just giving your body enough fuel for the fire. As far as meet day goes, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I need to talk about. I would say for meet day, you want to make sure you're getting in plenty of carbohydrates before the meet. Right before you lift, and you want to make sure you do it, you know, again, depending on the meet. If you have a 2-hour weigh-in, you want to make sure that you're really, really amped up and getting in a lot of food at that time. You know, if you normally train at night, let's for argument's sake, you train, you know, 4 o'clock, and you have around, every day you train around 4 o'clock, you have around 200, 300 grams of carb before you lift. You kind of want to mimic that on meet day. So you're going to have to try to eat in order to make that up. So you just got to keep that in mind when it comes to meet day.
Yeah, again, your meet day performance and everything you do leading up to it pretty much want to match what you do on a day-to-day basis in the gym, because you know what works for you. If you train regularly day in and day out, then you know, okay, I like to have this amount of food in my system before I eat. I like to have this amount of meals. You want to make sure that you're able to duplicate that the day of the meet. You don't want to do something different. You already know how you perform best.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, that was it. Nutrition for powerlifting. Again, if you guys have any questions at all, or you're interested in coaching, head on over to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. Click on that listener tab. We'll answer any questions you have regarding this. And if you're interested in having us train you for your powerlifting meet, head on over to that coaching. Remember, there's only a couple slots left, and then we're closing it for good. But, all right, big guy. That's nutrition for powerlifting.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.